So imagine a financial platform turning 18. It's finally coming of age, legally old enough to make its own decisions, and just like any 18-year-old, it's facing this huge moment of reckoning. We are talking about M-Pesa, the mobile money giant that has basically defined Kenya's economy for almost 2 decades. But with adulthood comes new responsibilities, and the big question on everyone's mind is, what comes next?
It all kicked off with a really simple idea built around a single text message. So let me just ask you this. How can something so small, a few lines of text on a basic phone, completely reshape an entire nation's economy? Trust me, the sheer scale of the answer is pretty staggering.
Get this, a massive 59% of Kenya's entire gross domestic product flows through this one platform. To put that in perspective, if you took a giant like PayPal in the US, its total volume is less than 5% of America's GDP. So M-Pesa isn't just another service in Kenya. In many ways, it is the economy. Literally.
Okay, so how did we even get here? To really get how M-Pesa became so dominant, we have to rewind and go back to its childhood, back to a time before that iconic green logo was on, well, every single street corner.
Before 2007, sending money across Kenya was honestly a nightmare. You'd literally have to give a wad of cash to a bus conductor and just pray that it got to your family. The alternative? Spending hours, maybe even days, waiting in line at a bank. And that's if you were lucky enough to even have a bank nearby. Millions of Kenyans were just completely cut off from the financial system.
And the genius of the whole idea was just how simple it was. The founders saw that people were already using mobile airtime like it was cash, sending it to each other to pay for things. M-Pesa didn't have to invent some brand new behavior. It just built a safe, formal system around what people were already doing. Its first mission was as straightforward as its tagline, send money home.
And boy, did it take off. The growth was just explosive. Only 3 years after it launched, 90% of Kenyan adults were already using it. It grew from just sending money to paying bills, saving, and then to more controversial stuff like the Fuliza overdrafts. And today, as an 18-year-old, it handles a mind-boggling 180 million transactions every single day.
But this wasn't just some business success story. And this is where it gets really powerful. Research from top universities like MIT and Georgetown actually found that M-Pesa's rise had this profound social impact. It lifted nearly 200,000 households out of extreme poverty simply by making families more financially resilient, especially households led by women. It was like a development tool disguised as a tech product.
But then came adolescence. And, well, like a lot of teenagers, M-Pesa found itself caught in this tug-of-war between its idealistic childhood mission of helping everyone and the cold, hard reality of being a massive profit-making machine. This is where the story starts to get complicated.
See, M-Pesa became the main cash cow for its parent company, Safaricom. It grew and grew until it accounted for a whopping 41% of the company's total revenue. And that intense pressure to make a profit really started to change its identity.
And a lot of that profit comes from products like Fuliza, its super popular overdraft service. I mean, it definitely meets a real need for quick cash. But here's the kicker. The fees, when you actually calculate them out for a year, can work out to an effective interest rate of 132%. So the same platform that promised financial freedom was now getting slammed for creating these digital debt traps.
And that right there created this huge paradox. On the one hand, M-Pesa is this incredible engine for financial inclusion. But on the other hand, its total dominance has created what many now call a quasi-monopoly, with high fees that end up squeezing the very same people it was meant to empower in the first place. That's the core conflict of its teenage years.
So that brings us to today, the adult reckoning. After 18 years, Kenyans from all walks of life, we're talking developers, shopkeepers, farmers, they have a pretty clear wish list for what a grown-up M-Pesas should really look like.
For Kenya's amazing tech community, M-Pesa is a huge source of frustration. They see it as this walled garden. You have all these brilliant minds, right? But they feel like they're hitting a brick wall. One developer even said that trying to integrate with it is like getting lost in a bureaucratic maze, that it acts more like a slow, state-owned company than a nimble tech one. It's stifling the very innovation it should be fueling.
And for small business owners, the problem is dead simple: cost. That 1 to 2% transaction fee might not sound like a lot to you or me, but for a local shop owner whose margins are already paper thin, it's a huge deal. It's a significant chunk of their livelihood. They feel completely squeezed by the very platform they need to survive.
And for folks in rural areas, the #1 demand is just reliability. Look, for them, M-Pesa isn't some cool app. It's critical infrastructure. It is the bank. So when the network goes down, it's not just an annoyance. The entire local economy can grind to a halt. The cost of failure has become just enormous.
So what's next? Faced with all these growing pains, new competitors popping up, and regulators watching closely, Safaricom knows it has to do something. M-Pesa can't just stand still. To survive and thrive in its adult years, it has to reinvent itself.
And they are not messing around. They're putting serious money where their mouth is. We're talking an investment of over $300 million every single year. All for this massive overhaul they're calling M-Pesa 2.0. This isn't just a small update. It's a fundamental rebuild from the ground up.
So what are they trying to do with all that cash? Well, the goals are pretty ambitious, and they seem to be listening. They want zero downtime, which directly addresses that critical concern from rural users. They're boosting cybersecurity, which is a must. And, really importantly, they're moving to a modern, cloud-based system that's built to work smoothly with other systems. Finally, maybe, opening up that walled garden for developers.
This whole overhaul puts M-Pesa at a massive crossroads, forcing a choice between two very different futures. Is it going to stay this private, profitable walled garden where it controls everything and sets the fees? Or will it move towards a model more like India's open UPI platform, which is treated more like a public good, something that encourages competition and keeps costs super low?
And this isn't just some theoretical debate. Just look at what's happening in places like India and Brazil. Their models are totally different. Where M-Pesa is a private business that charges fees, systems like India's UPI and Brazil's Pix are basically treated like public utilities. They're largely free for people to use and are either publicly owned or run to deliberately spark innovation and competition.
So as M-Pesa blows out its 18 candles, it's facing the ultimate adult choice. It was a true child of Kenyan innovation that revolutionized finance for millions. But will its adult self finally embrace the huge responsibility that comes with being a nation's financial backbone? Will it become a true digital commons that works for everyone? Or will it just double down on being a private empire? The choices it makes right now will echo for generations to come.